Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the QRL Show. What might be, Strike, the very first in-person
In person?
QRL Show. In today's episode, we are here at Consensus in Austin, Texas, and been having a lot of great conversations throughout our conference. And what we're going to be doing in today's episode is we've been gathering a lot of common themes and questions that people have been talking with us, from individuals up to huge institutions at this conference. So what I'm going to do, Michael, if you're cool with this, I'm going to go through a list of 6 to 7 condensed questions from that people have, and kind of just we'll riff on them a little bit. Is that sound good to you?
Yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, first one is going to be on a question that I had a number of people at some of the bigger institutions asking us on, and saying over the last 6 to 12 months they've heard more about, hey, they believe in the quantum threat. They've been hearing more and more about it, and so the main part is they first want to know, A, what's going on, B, based on that, what are kind of the timelines that the experts are saying, and what do you think, Strike, they should do about it?
Well, first of all, as far as institutional and other organizations hearing more and more, from my perspective, and I think from most of the team's perspective, that this is essentially organic growth that's been expected. As far as when we started laying the groundwork 6 years ago, when we laid the first block. So for me, that's not unexpected. It's still nice when you see your ideas and your ideals come to fruition.
Yeah,
I like that. But to talk about the as far as what to do about it, we're finding a lot more companies are paying attention. For example, Cloudflare has a dashboard in which they're showing how much of their HTTPS TLS traffic is now being quantum secure. As we all know, Apple iMessage has gone post quantum secure. There's several organizations that are spending a lot of resources in moving forward, and last year Biden released the Biden administration released the post quantum initiative, so that all government agencies need to start putting together a plan. Well, starting like last year, need to start putting together a plan in order to show how they're going to be quantum resistant when the data hits the wire, as far as inter-network communications stuff on the LAN WAN. So as far as what they should be doing, they should be paying attention. So I mean, we've been talking quantum for what, a few years now.
yeah, it's a lot of the same narratives, but it's refreshing to see it more and more people coming up to the booth and not saying, hey, disprove me, but more so, hey, we're in agreement with this, tell me more, we want to know about it. And it's everyone. It's from big players down to your everyday investor. So it's kind of exciting to see.
Yeah, when we talk, we've been seeing a few jaws drop, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to that in two or three questions.
And it's like it's a few oh my gosh moments, you know, and it's fun. And one of the biggest parts that I like about this project is we're not budding.
Yeah.
Right. We're fully funded. We're just essentially just raising awareness.
Yeah, educating.
I'm not selling anything.
Yeah. Educating, and my hope is to lead someone down a rabbit hole where they can take that education and then go at it at their own pace. If they want to go into the deep end, great. If they want to, dip their toes, whether on a personal level or, if they want to share it with colleagues in, an organizational environment. But no, I like it.
At the end of the day, I think that a reasonable person that does a basic amount of research will accept that the probability of some sort of quantum incident is non-zero.
Yeah.
It's a non-zero probability. And if you can admit to yourself that it's non-zero probability, then that means it's something. And if it's something, maybe that has a place in a portfolio or something like that. So
and that percentage of the pie
it's
is
just logical.
Yeah.
To me it is.
Yeah. The next question, this is one that I think is always important to dive into, and we've touched on it in previous episodes in some form. It's hey, we see that your project is always about post-quantum security, making sure keeping digital assets secure. So a question is, how is your cryptography post-quantum secure? And this is kind of framed for the person that they might not be the most technical, but try to within that just try to give them the high macro overarching answer as best as possible for the how's the cryptography we use, how is it post-quantum secure when quantum computers aren't here yet. Explain a little bit into the what makes it that way based on the math and cryptography a little bit.
So to your point, we're operating in at the intersection of essentially two niches, right? We have this blockchain niche, which is a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
right? And we have this quantum computer niche, which is its own rabbit hole.
Deep
and
one.
as far and they're
Yeah.
both deep rabbit holes. So our little niche here in which we operate, it's a difficult narrative to run with unless someone's already very familiar with both. But the best thing that I typically open with is if I'm trying to see if someone's interested, is I will say we are the only blockchain in the space that is provably secure against a quantum computer attack based on government grade cryptography.
Yep.
And at that point, we kind of pause usually when I'm presenting something like that, and I'll wait to see where they're either what their knowledge level is on either blockchain. Maybe they know everything about blockchain, nothing about quantum, or maybe they're a physicist and they don't know anything. One of the two, and then let them drive the narrative. Any communication that's 100% technically correct but not received by the audience is 100% failure. So with that being said, it's very easy to walk into this and start explaining things, and then have the recipient's eyes just start to glass over. So essentially, simpler, shorter is really better. And that narrative that I just ran through, that was that one sentence.
Yeah.
That if I were, that's how we've been presenting the project here at Consensus.
Yeah. And for those that are viewing this, when they're thinking about it, they might be thinking, okay, hey, well, if a quantum computer isn't here yet, how would we know that they wouldn't be able to crack that, cryptography or encryption? Can you touch on that part a little of, based on hash XMSS? Can you touch just for a few sentences as best as possible? I know it's pretty meaty, but just in terms of explaining what XMSS and hash-based, what we use within our cryptography that makes it resistant to the quantum threat, I think that would be helpful to touch on for a minute. That really kind of.
So essentially, what makes our project different?
Yeah.
So. In a lot of the podcasts and the X Spaces and the things that we do, I sense that a lot of time projects are just trying. They have a thesaurus and they're trying to find synonyms that other projects are already saying, and they're trying to sound different. And I wish them the best. The advantage, I guess, the advantage that we have is we're genuinely different. We don't have to look for creative ways to stand out, because we genuinely stand out.
Yeah.
So what does make us different? So with Bitcoin, you have a 256-bit random number, which is your private key. You can generate that offline if you want, but essentially it's 256 bits and it's random. You will apply elliptical curve multiplication to that, and then you add a public key. Right? And I can give you my public key.
Yep.
Right? And you can send Bitcoin to it, and I can receive Bitcoin, and everything's good. To take that private key that you generated, that 256-bit random number, and apply ECC is a very easy process.
Yeah.
It's very trivial. You can actually do it offline. However, to take that public key that you generated and then get a private key
and derive it from there.
To reverse that process is it's pretty safe to say that it's classically impossible.
Yeah.
However, if you have a sufficiently powerful quantum computer running Shor's algorithm, which was developed by Peter Shor in 1994, you can take that private key and generate a public key based on the fact being able to factor that public key into the two prime numbers when multiplied together, equal that, therefore getting the private key. And the thing with that is the public keys are everywhere. So that's it.
Yep. Next question. We've been having a lot of people ask and come up to us from different industries, whether it's private sector, large institutions, banking, infrastructure, they're coming up to us and telling us, hey, this is a big problem that we see around the corner. Let's touch a little bit where we live in a lane that's at the intersection of blockchain and quantum. So in crypto circles, people talk about it in a crypto sense, but can you talk about how the post-quantum, uh, you know, the, Y2Q, how it will impact just literally everything? You riff on that for a minute. I think it's just, I know a lot of people viewing this already kind of understand the ramifications from everything to everyday banking we use to, obviously our digital assets, hence our project. But like, can you just touch on, the massive impact it's going to have, not just on blockchain, but fill in the blank industry?
Yeah, sure. So, first off, we don't really know anything for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, we were able to pick the correct hash-based signature scheme out of a list of 70, and there were two that ended up being recommended by NIST. So we do have a history of, I would say, smart people on the team, definitely, and there's some luck involved, right? But as far as the risk itself, the risk that quantum computing poses spans not just blockchain, but spans industries as well. We're talking about data at internet junction points that can be pulled off the wire and essentially just written to a PCAP file, or using Wireshark or off a span port, or essentially just taking the payload of the IP packet or the TCP/IP packet, and then just storing it now. So as far as industries outside of blockchain, the biggest problem there is if you're sending encrypted information that needs to be secure for, let's just say, 10 years, and there's I don't know, a 10, let's say 10%, 15% chance of a sufficiently powerful quantum computer being deployed under the radar within the next 5 years. Based on that, which is part of Moscow's theorem, you're already 5 years behind.
Yeah.
So it's not really, okay, well, when quantum computers become a thing, we'll start paying attention. Well, the data is being stored today. Yeah. So if you need your data to be secure in the future, the ciphertext is being stored today that nobody can do anything with, as far as we know.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. But if it needs to be secure in the future, you need to be thinking ahead
today.
Now.
Yeah, today or yesterday.
Yeah. So in the blockchain space, there's another problem. You really have to be post-quantum secure since the first block, and that's because a lot of public keys are based on elliptical curve cryptography. As far as I know, it's like over 99% of Bitcoin, and like 99% of altcoins
fill in the blank.
use ECDSA, which means public keys are floating around everywhere.
Yep.
And if they're being floating around everywhere, there's nothing to say that they can't be scraped,
Yep.
and just stored the same way that you could essentially tap into the internet backbone and just take all the data and just start writing it to hard drives. Hard drive space is cheap. You can buy 18 terabyte hard drives for like a couple hundred bucks now.
Yeah.
If you find a good deal, to be fair. So the risks span industries, but specifically we're here to educate based on the quantum threat. We do talk to people in the banking sector and different industries, but specifically that's why we developed the QRL project, is to be post-quantum secure since Genesis.
Yep. Not
an ERC20, own blockchain, and has never had a block that was not post-quantum secure. So there is nothing to scrape. So the advantage of that is it makes us not just quantum secure, but also classically secure. So as far as what it would take to hard fork or go to post-quantum security, we're already done, and we've already been there. We don't have to do anything. So that's easy. So I get that question sometimes. Oh, okay. So you're into blockchain and post-quantum. All right. So what's your migration look like? Well, no. First block, we've been post-quantum secure since Genesis. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Well, we got two more questions, I think, as we wrap it up. If that's it's cool with you, I think Next one I want to touch on is um, what is like coming out of that and talking about how it's impacting everything. We kind of touched on some of the intricacies of that. The next one is people want to know, what is the rest of the space doing? And maybe we just have this, we'll expand on this part. This can be the last question. What is the rest of the space outside of our project doing to address the quantum threat? From the fill in the blank project, obviously the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, but everything to Polkadot, Solana, you fill in the blank, don't even need to name it. What are other people doing in the space? We talked to a couple projects this past week at Consensus who literally, it was a couple jaw drop type moments where when it clicked for them, when you're in conversation with them about where the threat lies, what is to come, and really getting to the nuts and bolts of it. What is the rest of the space doing?
So one thing that I've noticed is it's an uptick every single year is most projects are becoming more aware. I would say there's nine out of 10 projects have at least now heard about the quantum threat. That doesn't mean they're doing anything about it necessarily, or that they have a migration plan
Yeah.
for that. But the awareness is increasing, and as the awareness is increasing, it's starting to make our communication easier because there's already been some back work in order to bring up to a level of knowledge that makes the narrative and the communication easier. The difficulty is that if your chain is already running, 99% of the time, being able to hard fork into something that's post-quantum secure using a post-quantum secure digital signature algorithm is difficult. It's not impossible. You can do it, and I've said this before. Bitcoin can hard fork. Landport signatures seem to be a preferred method based on the dev team. Bitcoin can hard fork, but I can promise you this: you're not going to get all the coins. There's no way, because that takes a user process.
And we're also talking about in theory. In practice, when that goes down, it's even harder in when that takes place. Even if you have a game plan for it, it's not.
So I had someone approach me and said, okay, well, 21 million cap, right?
Yep.
On Bitcoin. But people lose their private keys all the time. People pass away or pass on.
Yeah.
And those are lost forever. But at the same time, I think there's a difference between someone that passes away and loses their keys.
Yeah.
They don't seem to complain as much. I don't think they complain as much as someone that had their got robbed by a quantum computer. To be fair, if
you talk multiple worlds, maybe that someone comes into the conversation, but
I hope it doesn't go there. Yeah. But and there's multiple attack vectors, and if anyone that's listening, watching the video, our community, you want to talk different attack vectors, just jump into Discord, and we can go through that. I can think of at least 3 or 4 that are very, very viable attack vectors. Specifically, one that we realized as a team, which is Rogue Node. Everyone has heard not your keys, not your crypto, but there's also a not your node, not your rules, and that's much less mentioned.
But it's
not
the basis for that one.
So the basis for that is essentially as blockchains are gaining consensus. The only thing I have to it's common to say that I have to follow the same rules as you.
Yeah.
But that's not quite technically true. The only thing I do is have to at least appear to be following the same rules as you.
Yeah.
But I can be doing whatever I want internally. For example, when a Bitcoin transaction output is created, when you send that to a node, it automatically will send that to all the nodes that it's connected with, because eventually it wants that. It's in everyone's best interest to have that transaction exist on a node when a miner solves the next block, right? So it goes everywhere. But let's say I'm running Bitcoin nodes.
Yep.
Let's say I have a VPN and I've got Bitcoin nodes logically dotted across the world geographically. Okay,
Yep.
But I'm all running them like off a single VM, in Azure or something like that. Or single host, multiple VMs. So let's say I receive a transaction, and I don't have that transaction in my mempool. I've never seen that transaction before. Should I forward it on? Maybe not. Let's forward it on. Let's maybe wait for just a couple minutes, and maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and see if I receive that transaction. If not, it's entirely possible that somebody submitted that directly to me.
Yeah.
So if I have a sufficiently powerful quantum computer, and we're talking about strictly someone that wants to game the system, and game theories in human nature it's pretty proliferant.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for me to broadcast that transaction to other nodes. Instead, I'll just unicast it over to my quantum computer, and nobody else knows about it. Joe sitting here at the Bitcoin Explorer, waiting for the transaction to appear, whatever website he's on, whatever node it's attached to, waiting for the transaction to show up, or at least show as pending or something, but it never does. But so what's he going to do? Well, he's just going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
He's done, because he's done this before. I know Bitcoin. I know how Bitcoins works. I've sent 50 transactions.
Assume
it's always
the
right.
Same. Yeah.
I'm just being impatient. I'll just come back and check it later. So at the same time, instead of having his transaction broadcast to the rest of the network, it's actually being worked on by a quantum computer. So the difference with this is, you'll hear, when you're hearing people talk about the quantum threat, they say, well, you have to solve that. You have to solve, the quantum computer only has like 8 minutes to 50 minutes, whatever their block times. That's not true. If you're the only one to receive that, if that transaction's net new and you're the only one that knows about it, there's no reason to broadcast it. Not your node, not your rules. Send it to a quantum computer. You could have 2 days? A week?
Yeah.
Right? Possibly more before you're able to interface in the chain in a way to be able to replace that transaction. And honestly, I know how to do. I know how to do it on Ethereum by setting the nonce number as the same number and then increasing the gas fee. If a transaction is pending or is stuck, off the top of my head, honestly, I wouldn't even know how to do it with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I'd have to look it up, and I'm in the space, so that
pretty niche.
That's going to take time.
Yeah. I think that kind of you added on to what I was saying there. I think is a wrap-up question, kind of a two-parter. The first one being, for those watching, those familiar in our community, I think hopefully it's just nice for you to see a little QRL show in person, face-to-face, which we obviously enjoy. We've been doing the show for a while and just been doing it remotely, but really one of the parts that I think would be helpful as a closer would be, first off, for those viewing who are maybe a little bit newer to the content or just starting to go down the rabbit hole, where's a good place for them to start? I know we touched on Discord briefly. Where should they join in on the conversation, and maybe what's a resource or two beside our content that maybe they can dig down the rabbit hole, whether it's a resource on our website, whether it's just, hey, check out some of the other videos and see much of the same and educate themselves in a sense, and continue learning about what it is. So two-parter, where should they start? Join the Discord. Any other recommendations for them, Strike?
I think the greatest barrier is probably the esoteric nature of Bitcoin and blockchain. As I said earlier, Bitcoin by itself is a deep rabbit hole that we're still early on. Yeah. And quantum computers itself are another very deep rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But if the words here are resonating, a good place to start would just be to look into Shor's algorithm and factorization and public-private keys.
Yep.
And if you understand how a sufficiently powerful quantum computer could take a public key and turn it into a private key, you essentially that's basically it.
Yeah. And then from there you can go in more nuanced, or you can stay at that level and
you can assess your own degree. What's my exposure? What's my risk?
Yeah.
And everyone can do that for herself. We've never spread FUD, right? We like Bitcoin, we like Ethereum. I've got some altcoins. Yeah. But we're here to inform. We're not really agenda driven because we're funded by a nonprofit. We're already funded, so we're not selling anything. People were asking us today, hey, what are you selling? Well, not really. We're just here, just talking, giving information.
Yep.
Here's the ticker. Here's the project. Here's the website.
Yeah. Here's what we're up to. And speaking of website, the QRL.org, that's our main domain. You can also join our active Discord communities, follow us on Twitter, other social channels, and as always, if you're not already subscribing to our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. That way, when myself and Michael come out with new content at the intersection of post-quantum and blockchain, you're going to be, the first to know about it. And,
Yeah.
whether you have a comment, big question, big or small, jump in our Discord community. We have a amazing community where it's a mix of great community members, many who we've met here in person this weekend at Consensus, and many others who are just spread around the world. And also a really big element of, the team, the dev team in there answering questions, big and small. So, Strike, I appreciate you taking the time to answer questions that we've been receiving. And for those watching, myself and Michael would like you to keep those digital assets post-quantum secure. And we will see you both in the next episode.
Rock and roll.
Adios.
All right. See ya.